let's start by speaking about Johnson & Johnson history, as Johnson & Johnson was first established in South Africa in 1930, being one of the first countries, by the way, outside of the United States, where we had a local footprint. Immediately after that, we started producing locally some of our most iconic brands, and since then, we have expanded our presence in the country. Today, we have more than 1,000 employees and two manufacturing plants in Cape Town and East London. Janssen is the pharmaceutical sector of Johnson & Johnson, and our focus is to bring innovative solutions to some of the most complex unmet medical needs. At Janssen, everything we do begins with innovation. It is at the very heart of our business, and we believe there are no limits to what science can do. In our search for the solutions to the medical challenges of our time, we consistently invest in research and development. Key to our research success is also our focus on collaboration. We believe in connecting our own expertise with that of others, seeking the top minds in every field, from academia, biotech, other pharmaceutical companies. Together, we can work more effectively. This is basically because today's medical challenges are far more complex than ever before. Yet it is not just about finding new treatments. We look at these medical challenges in a broader context. We go beyond the medicine, ensuring people have the information, education, and support to access the treatments they need and use them correctly for the best possible results. And it all comes back to our commitment to collaboration in research and education. With our unique model of innovation, Janssen has built an industry-leading pipeline. We are actively developing treatments for patients in important therapeutic areas such as metabolic diseases, immunology, infectious diseases, neuroscience, oncology, and pulmonary hypertension. Those are the 6 disease area strongholds that we work in. And through extensive medical research, our solutions may be able to alleviate, contain, or cure some of the world's most serious conditions and diseases. I am a biologist by training, and I'm passionate about medical transformation and innovation, from bench to the bedside, bringing products that alleviate suffering in oncology, immunology, or neuroscience. This is what motivates me. I've been working at Janssen for more than 20 years with experience in sales, marketing, market access, both in Europe and in South Africa. And I define myself as a continuous learner. Nobody is 100% prepared for every single scenario. And what we need is to keep our curiosity, our learning agility, measuring everything we do and learning from all our experiences, positive and negative experiences. This is a bit of who I am.
Yeah, fantastic. So I'll talk about your leadership style next, perhaps lessons you've learned, but also want to bring in, and we don't have to speak specifically about the vaccine here, but I want to speak about COVID-19 and perhaps some of the crucial lessons that you've learned during this period, not just you as as an individual, but as a researcher, believing the science, that sort of thing. What key leadership lessons would you say you've learned?
I am passionate about collaboration. The magnitude of the challenges we are facing, the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity of our so-called VUCA world require multidisciplinary efforts. A good leader needs to have a deep understanding of the market dynamics and capacity for scenario planning, but even more importantly, a leader would be as good as his or her team is. Empowering our employees to make decisions, to implement new ideas, and to learn both from successes and mistakes are the ingredients of the recipe. Developing our employees by offering the right training opportunities and the adequate coaching is one of our priorities at at Janssen, for instance.
Yeah.
I will say that during my career, I've learned that different challenges will require a different leadership style, and that effective leadership goes with the ability to move from one style to another as the situation requires. But in all those scenarios, helping the teams to reach their maximum potential is always the critical success factor.
Okay, so COVID-19 has struck. We're more than a year into it in South Africa. Lockdown was, I think, March last year. So, if what have Johnson Johnson or Janssen SA done in terms of initiatives to help communities and employees of the organization during this period?
Well, our first responsibility is to the patients we serve. It is the first paragraph of our credo. During this time, our primary focus has been to continue delivering our products for the patients who needed them. Continuity of supply chain for those patients has been critical. And I think we have done a good job effectively delivering on that commitment. And at the same time, being part of Janssen, Johnson & Johnson in the development of a safe and effective vaccine that can help fighting the most challenging health problem the world has faced in a century is truly rewarding. J&J was built for times like this, and we have used our scale to contribute significantly to end this pandemic. From a professional point of view, this is one in a career time opportunity. There are many areas where the Johnson & Johnson Foundation and the Johnson & Johnson family of companies have, for instance, committed more than 18 million rands to support frontline health workers and our communities across South Africa, including the provision of protective equipment, additional training, product support, and mental health support. Johnson & Johnson, Janssen support focus on three key areas, being the first one, to prioritize the safety of healthcare workers during COVID-19 care, delivery, including the provision of PPE, training, technical support. Another important area is to provide mental health and psychological support for health workers at the forefront of fighting the pandemic. And last but not least, supporting national response plans for preparedness and health system strengthening. And in doing so, we have partnered with different entities, from Mothers to Mothers to the DG Murray Trust, the Solidarity Fund, or the Community Chest of South Africa.
We want to speak about the process of the vaccine from, well, briefly, obviously, from beginning to end. I'm sure it's quite a long process and we won't be able to get through it all today. But if you could just briefly explain the process that a vaccine that you would go through from start to finish. When did you start working on it, and what challenges popped up along the way?
The process started beginning of 2020. As soon as the virus was sequenced, we started working on it. Vaccines development is not a new area for Janssen. We have been investing for more than 2 decades on building our vaccine platform. And this AdVac platform has proven to be successful in developing other vaccine candidates, for instance, for Ebola or HIV vaccines that are currently under clinical development. So we had a good starting point with our AdVac platform. Once we identified a lead candidate, it was the time to test the safety and the efficacy in the appropriate clinical trials. We all know that there's a huge sense of urgency to fight this pandemic, but it is important to follow a robust development program. And this is what we have done through phase 1 to phase 3 clinical trials, some of them conducted here in South Africa as part of our global research network. Clinical research has demonstrated that our vaccine candidate is highly effective against COVID-19 with a single dose, preventing moderate and severe disease and reducing dramatically hospitalization and death. In parallel, Johnson & Johnson effort has been on building and scaling up our manufacturing capacities to produce as many vaccines as possible. And this has been, again, a global effort. partnering and looking for collaboration with public and private entities. That manufacturing network includes now well-established sites of production all over the world, including our partnering here in South Africa. And last but not least, our guiding principle at Janssen has been to provide an effective vaccine to be distributed globally. And to deliver on that commitment, we announced that our vaccine will be distributed on a non-for-profit basis during the pandemic. We are all together in this fight.
The approval of vaccines, how does that come about? Because right in the beginning of the pandemic, it was all about vaccines can take years to get through and be approved. So how did the process go so much quicker with COVID? Obviously, the need for it was there, but what actually speeds up the process?
It has been a titanic effort. Huge investment has been made to be able to deliver a safe and effective vaccine in just 1 year. But it is important to highlight that it has not been done at the expense of reducing the quality or the safety, as those are our primary objectives. For instance, I was mentioning before, our existing AdVac technology as a successful platform in developing other vaccine candidates, or the fact that we started building our manufacturing capacity at risk last year while the vaccine candidate was put in clinical trials. Those are two examples of how Johnson & Johnson is using its size for the good. There are other elements that have contributed to the process. For instance, a revisited sequential approach to clinical development phases. Instead of completing one phase before starting the next one and going in parallel with some of those clinical trials is one example. Rolling submissions to the regulatory authorities, in which we were sharing all the information as it became available, have also contributed to this accelerated conditional approval. And the job continues, as we will continue sharing with the authorities all the information in the future. And it's important to highlight here that monitoring and follow-up of our clinical trials continues, and we have a robust pharmacovigilance system in place. The conditional approval that SAPRA granted to our vaccine candidate in March is a significant milestone, and together with the approvals by the US FDA, WHO, or the European agency are a testimony of the process that has been followed.
The world as we know it has changed. We were all moving towards digital technology, etc. before the time. COVID has sped up that process. What specific changes in terms of that have undergone at Johnson & Johnson or Janssen SA?
Well, with countries going into severe lockdowns and having all the patients who need our products in mind, our first objective was to secure continuity in our supply chain. So adapting our facilities for our on-site essential personnel to safely perform the responsibilities was a top priority. Digital has played also a significant role, and most of our staff, we have moved during the lockdown to a working from home environment. Employees' commitment and the technology that we already had in place have facilitated the transition. And now I can say that operations have been minimally disrupted. In my opinion, technology played a role, but change management is as important, if not more, than the hardware itself. It is important to adapt our processes and meetings to the new reality we have been living, with employees at home managing different realities. This has been a time for us knowing better our employees, understanding their personal situation, and implementing flexible HR policies to achieve a good professional and personal balance. During this time, we are continuously monitoring the situation, and our return to the workplace framework will always follow the government recommendations and the common sense. Safety of our employees is primordial to us.
So what would you say to people who are apprehensive or have doubts about any vaccine, really? But yeah, as a vaccine of COVID-19, what would you say to someone like that?
Now, that's really important. Uh, Vaccines have played a major role in eradicating or minimizing the impact of devastating diseases in the past. And we are confident that with the vaccines being developed against COVID 19, we are now in a better position to control the spread of the disease that has caused such a negative impact in our lives and livelihoods. Vaccines that are approved by regulatory agencies are safe, and a robust clinical development and pharmacovigilance systems are in place. So citizens can be confident that all the steps have taken in order to ensure the safety of our vaccines. The second message will be that the efficacy of a vaccination program depend on achieving herd immunity. So it is important that we reach as many people as soon as possible to get that herd immunity. Only being together in this fight, we can defeat our deadly enemy, COVID-19. To understand to understand how we have developed the vaccine, it is important to put on the table what were the principles and what are the principles uh, that we use to that development. And that was, we are in the middle of a pandemic where there's a huge need of vaccinating as many people as possible, and to do it not only effectively and safely, but efficiently. And in our development, there are certain elements that, well, in our opinion, and also in the WHO opinion, can play a role in achieving mass vaccination. One is that our vaccine is one shot, and we intentionally develop our clinical program targeting uh, to demonstrate the efficacy of the vaccine with one dose. That will facilitate for sure mass vaccination, and also will be an efficient way of managing the production that we have during the pandemic phase. The second element that is important is the distribution of the vaccine. And Janssen vaccine is compatible with the standard refrigeration requirements, for instance, that other vaccination programs have. That will facilitate deployment in bigger areas, and this is also important. And the third element of it is affordability. And this is why Johnson & Johnson committed to distribute our vaccine during the pandemic at a non-for-profit basis. So being one shot, being with a normal storage and distribution conditions, and being at a non-for-profit basis is the contribution of Johnson & Johnson to the mass vaccination that we need, particularly during this pandemic phase.
Why would you say has Africa received far less vaccines compared to the rest of the world?
Again, it's a very relevant question, and still we need to work all together to effectively deploy the war vaccines and to collaborate with national and supranational entities to effectively deliver vaccination plans. Equitable access is at the center of what Johnson & Johnson is doing on COVID-19 response. As I said, Johnson & Johnson single-dose vaccine and its compatibility with the standard vaccine distribution channels is aligned with WHO recommendations for medical interventions in a pandemic setting, which emphasize ease of distribution, administration, and compliance. Our company is committed to ensuring global access to the Johnson & Johnson single-dose COVID-19 vaccine on a non-for-profit basis for the emergency pandemic use. In September 2020, Johnson & Johnson joined other life sciences companies and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in signing an unprecedented communique, which outlined a steadfast commitment to facilitating equitable access to the innovations being developed to fight the pandemic, And additionally, the company recently announced that it has entered into an agreement with the African Vaccine Acquisition Trust to make available up to 220 million doses of its single-dose COVID-19 vaccine to African Union's 55 member states, with delivery beginning in the third quarter of 2021. The African Vaccine Acquisition Trust has also the potential to order an additional 180 million doses for a combined total of up to 400 million doses in the future. So our commitment towards Africa is significant. In South Africa as well, we are partnering with the South African government to deliver our doses as soon as possible. So still more need to be done, but at least I can say that Johnson & Johnson, that Janssen is committed to equal distribution and to have the vaccines in Africa, in the same period that we are distributing in other geographies.